All right, as promised, Ken Rosenthal, nice enough to take time out. Game 3 coming up later tonight. We will be at the stadium, of course, Kenny, with the Athletics senior writer there, and you'll see him MLB on Fox. I don't know if you talk about your bow tie in advance, but there's a whole new audience here in Arizona because we just haven't seen any postseason games in forever. They may be wondering, what is the story, Kenny? I've seen it through the years, but why don't you just start with that? I want to give you that platform.
Real quickly, I'll try to get through it. 2010, David Hill, who was then running Fox Sports, said, I want you to start wearing a bow tie. And I did not like the idea. He wanted to distinguish me. And I thought my work should distinguish me. That's the way it works. But television's different. So I put it on for the postseason that year. And then that offseason, a guy named Dhani Jones, used to be an NFL linebacker, approached me. He had a nonprofit. And this nonprofit called the Bowtie Cause partners with all these different charitable organizations, all kinds of organizations, actually. And he said, would you like to start wearing our bow ties, each one to represent a different charity? And I thought, well, Fox is going to make me do this again. So I might as well get control of it. And more important, I might as well do it for a good reason. So each bow tie represents a different charity. I've been doing it for all of these years now. And when I don't wear a bow tie, if I show up in an event with a necktie, a normal tie, people say, hey, where's the bow tie? So long story short, David Hill was right. It did distinguish me. It did brand me, if you want to use that language. And I have to thank him.
Tonight, will you, in advance, so fans here in Phoenix or around the state who don't know what it's about, what are you wearing tonight?
I believe I'm wearing, I haven't checked yet, but I believe it is for Williams syndrome. And this actually has a connection to the Diamondbacks. Their assistant general manager, Amiel Sade, has a daughter with Williams syndrome. So the original connection was made through Amiel. He actually asked me to wear this bow tie, or at least get a bow tie made for this particular cause. And that's what I'll be doing.
Good stuff there. Ken Rosenthal with us for a few minutes, and that is a part of when you see him tonight. For a lot of you that have not seen Kenny's work, you're now going to see it here on display with the Diamondbacks. Senior writer with The Athletic. Make sure you subscribe to The Athletic. They do terrific work. MLB on Fox reporter. 2 games in, what are you saying to yourself, boy, I just did not expect this angle to emerge? Because before the World Series, everybody's making predictions, Kenny. Everybody's saying this angle's 2 games in. What is the angle that's jumping out of you now like, I didn't think this was going to happen?
Ooh, that's a good question. I can't say I'm that surprised by anything, but I have not seen the Diamondbacks as much as some other teams. And to see them in action in person and to see how they play, it does jump out at you. And it's the defense, it's of course the contact-oriented approach, and mostly it's the pressure that they apply to different opponents and how successful they are at it. So that has been something that I can't say it's a surprise. I've been well aware of it, but to see it transpire in these kinds of games, the most meaningful games of the season, it's been quite impressive.
The young guns on this team, have you gotten to know Moreno and Carroll and Thomas enough to maybe come away? Corbin's gotten a lot of the attention, obviously, so is a Rookie of the Year guy, but these young guns here in Arizona, your impressions and maybe on an individual basis?
Well, they're all impressive. And actually, I first met Alec Thomas during the WBC in Phoenix, I believe it was, when he was playing for Team Mexico. And I had not met him before. I knew his dad, who used to be a strength and conditioning coach with the White Sox. So he's a guy that obviously has a ton of talent. He's had his ups and downs this year. And it looks like now he's kind of putting it together. Corbin Carroll is clearly a superstar in the making, if not that already. He's got a great way about him. Humble, serious, all the things that you look for in star players. Now, Moreno, I do not know as well, but that trade is now despised in Toronto. They
Fleecing.
hate the
It's a
fans do.
fleecing.
And Dalton Varsho, I still believe is going to be a good player, and people here saw him. He is a good player. But with Moreno emerging as something of a star and Lourdes Gurriel Jr., the season that he had, you could see why people in Toronto are upset.
There's people that are saying in baseball, talking heads, that Lenny Dykstra is Corbin Carroll. Do you see that?
I see it a little bit. Dykstra was not as fast as Corbin Carroll, if I recall. And people say that because of the body type. That's how people in baseball generally think. Well, he looks like this guy, so he must be that guy. I don't know that Corbin Carroll is quite the same type. Lenny Dykstra also was a creation somewhat of performance enhancing drugs. Corbin Carroll is not, and Letty later talked about this and all that. But I see a unique player, and he is a smaller type. I don't know if he's as muscular as Lenny because you know,
Right,
but
right.
but he is really fast, really talented, really good defensively, and again, he's a star.
And I've been here since the team started, and he reminds me a little bit of Steve Finley. Steve was bigger, but Steve and Corbin's much faster than Finn's. But in terms of covering ground and making things happen defensively, just Steve did not care much for the attention. Corbin does not care much for the attention, as I'm
Right.
sure you found out. So I see a little bit of Steve Finley in him. I don't know if you see that either.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Steve Finley because I covered him in Baltimore at the start of his career when he was a baby. And the guy who does draw comparisons to Steve Finley is on the other team, Evan Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Carter actually has a similar build to Steve Finley. Bruce Bochy has said he kind of reminds me of Finley. Bochy managed Finley. Now, Finley grew into a lot of power, and maybe Evan Carter will as well, but that's the more fitting comp, perhaps.
Before I get you out of here, tonight, you come into this with Max Scherzer. Who knows what we're going to see? You come into this with Brandon Pfaadt at the start of, I mean, in July, he gets the phone call from Brent Strom saying you're going to pitch big games for us. And here he is on this stage. What a terrific matchup for the fans. I think for yourself in the role that you have tonight. Like, you've got it laid up for you. A little bit about tonight's matchup.
It is interesting. You're absolutely right. And you have a veteran that has accomplished great things in Max Scherzer, but who is not totally himself right now. He's still building back up from his injury. And you have Fought, who is a guy that has really come on. And in game 7 of the NLCS, could you be any better? So I don't expect either of them to go too deeply into this game. It's just not the way these games are played right now with pitchers who are in their position, which makes it all the more fascinating because we have a bullpen game most likely for both tomorrow. And this thing could get a little hairy over the next couple of nights.
Last question. And Torey Lovello, impressions of you dealing with Torey and the job he's done here and so far in the World Series, just dealing with Torey.
I've known Tori a long time. Tori's one of my favorites, and he's one of my favorites because he is so easy to deal with, and he is so expansive in his answers and entertaining and colorful and all of that. And what's really impressive here is the Diamondbacks as a whole, and the fact that they stuck with Torey Lovello even when losing 110 games. And it reminds me of a different thing that they did, which was not going into a tank mode. They've gone against the grain. They did it by keeping Lovello. They did it by not tanking. And now they're getting their just rewards. And it's refreshing to see it. They have not been a team that has necessarily acted in traditional fashion, or at least the way most teams act today. And I applauded both moves in my own way at the time. I thought it was great that they didn't tank like some other teams, didn't go all the way south. They didn't like to lose, and rightly so. And with Lovello, another team certainly could have said, or another general manager, this is it. But Mike Hazen basically looked in the mirror and said, you know what, this is on me. It's not on him. I'm not giving him players. So long story short, it's kind of cool to see the way they've done it and the way it has all worked out for them.
Good stuff. I'll see you tonight at the ballpark. I know you're running. I'll let you go. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Ken Rosenthal with us, and we're back with more after this timeout.